Her story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil right.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an abbreviated version of the Riff Worship podcast. It is, it's me, it's Dylan. I am not joined by Justin Swindle or Austin Paulson. I am joined by someone much better, someone that is, I think we have mutual minds here. But Pat, how you doing, bud?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. Better. I won't go better. I'll go balder. You and I are definitely the baldest of the quadrahedron of the podcast. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad they're here because what you guys don't know is when they are here, they talk about their hair constantly. Like all they do is trade secrets of just kind of like, what kind? Are you a Tresemme?
Oh,
are you a Garnier Fructis? And I just feel bad that Dylan gets left out, but now we're here to just take over.
Chrome dome it up. You know, I got tired of hearing about how much they love the transplants. You know, that's a deep cut.
Dude, where are you at on people who get hair transplants?
Oh, no, I'm talking about the band, the Transplants, being in the old Garnier ads. But we can get going on hair transplants, man.
That went right over my head. I'm embarrassed I didn't catch that. That's the ooh woo song, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
But
before we dig into this, man, where are you at on hair transplants?
Dude, I do whatever makes you feel comfortable in your skin. Absolutely. I'm not doing it. Never going to do it. Looks like too much fucking pain. I got other things that I would enjoy more that are probably far less painful than that are still painful.
Let me allow myself to be the villain. Stop it. You're a coward. If you get them, here's the thing. You can always spot the guys who have hair transplants.
Oh, of course.
And do you know how?
It looks like dolls.
Because there's that, but they avoid eye contact with bald guys because we know. I've seen enough guys in the gym who've got the weaving up front. You see the little baby hairs where they're planting them. They won't look at me. They won't make it here because they know that my eyes are right here, and I'm just like.
I just started wearing like a hat again recently. Like I went through a period where I wouldn't wear a hat for no reason. Like I just worked in an environment where I couldn't wear one often and like just stopped. And like when I went to the beach and I got that like full brimmed hat, I was like, okay, this is kind of fucking cool.
Dude, every vacation, bucket hat.
Absolutely.
We have to.
Oh, I mean, there's only so much sunscreen. And after a while, like you're just like, I'm tired of having an oily fucking head.
In your eyes.
Yeah, in your eyes, in your ears, everywhere. And like I've got, just for shits and grins, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna wear a hat today, and like went out and about and did some errands and had like this old crowbar hat and like just threw it on. I was like, oh, this is nice. I don't have to worry about anything. It's nice.
I'm doing it because if I don't, the light's gonna hit this and this is gonna be horrible.
It's listen.
You've got a professional setup. I've got a Hue bulb.
Dude, it is professional. No, these are Amazon box lights. Thanks, Bezos. Hey, again, I don't agree with his politics or him in general, but
no,
he had it in mind.
Yeah. You hear it first. We respect Jeff Bezos.
Baldness aside, we are doing a second episode on this band. That is today's subject, and we are talking yet again about the Dillinger Escape Plan. It has been a period of time in this band's career where there was a bit of a gap in between records. We were talking about their 2004 opus, Miss Machine.
Is it?
Is it right? Is it the underrated one? Is it the overrated one? Is it the beginning of a new band?
Is it just rated?
Is it right? Is it rated R? Is it rated Greg?
It's Greg. It's rated Greg.
It is rated Greg.
Yeah, I've discovered this band in a way that it may sound a little left of center, but if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense. The same thing in high school, older friends they're the ones who showed me the music, friends, older sisters, that's how it always worked. And one of my buddies who was like, "Hey man, you like Slipknot, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You'll check this out." And he put on like 43% Burnt, and like I was like, "This is incredible. What is this?" And then he just gave me a burn copy of that EP and like some mixed songs of theirs. And yeah, that's just, I've been a big fan ever since. I celebrate the entire catalog, some parts more than others. We will get to that.
I became privy to this band, I think like a lot of people my age did, which was the Virgin Megastore video of Greg just walking on heads, that's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Just 15 years old, not really understanding what this is, and just going, I have to watch this again. I got to continue to watch this. It was like a viral video there for a minute.
It comes back.
It does.
It comes back every now and then. Like people will like bring it back. You'll see like reaction videos to it, and that's always good.
I mean, the record's this record's 22 years old. It's during I know. It's during that same period of time, like between, I believe it was that video. I had a friend that like almost brutally made me not ever want to listen to this band just by playing it constantly. Not that that's a bad thing. I filtered it through and finally got the record and went, okay, I get it. Like I completely I'm all in. Got the record. I believe they were on the Alone in the Dark soundtrack. I could be wrong. I think Relapse and Nuclear Blast had like a ton of bands on there, like terrible fucking movie, but like the soundtrack had like Suffocation and all these other great bands on it. I think Dillinger was on it for possibly Panasonic Youth. And then there was the just seeing the album cover alone,
Right.
seeing that, and like Hastings Music, which we've talked about, like always having like a great marketing scheme with Relapse Records, just stuff everywhere. But yeah, I finally like dove into this band, and this is the era of the band that I am most familiar with, and this is kind of where it starts with me and moving forward. But as you said, I can celebrate the entire catalog, and there are stuff that I really like, and there's stuff that I'm like, okay, this is fine, you know. There's a couple later era records that I really like a lot that I thought I wouldn't, and it took me a long time to embrace them because I was so ingrained with like, it's the first three or four, I'm all for it.
That's interesting because I mean, like I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but like, I don't think they've ever done like I mean, this one for sure, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I mean, aside from like this album and the Calculating Affinity and that kind of stuff before, there's not really like a drastic change in what they're doing. I mean, this is kind of where they're just like, oh no, this is the band we're going to be. So it's interesting that some of the later stuff doesn't really connect with you. I'm interested in that. I find that kind of stuff fun because it's just like, well, it still sounds like Dillinger, but
Right. Still sounds like Dillinger, and it just, I think certain periods of certain bands, you can tell that it becomes kind of the routine. It's not even necessarily that it's bad. It's just that it's like, okay, this seems like maybe this doesn't have the intent or the energy behind
gotcha.
it. Groundhog Day, right? That kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But for those that maybe haven't listened to our prior episode on Dillinger the Escape Plan, the band was formed in 1997 in Morris Plains, New Jersey. Kind of formed out of a band called Arcane that released a 5-song demo. Roughly around this period of time, too, they decided to kind of drift away from the typical hardcore sound that they were using in that band and started incorporating more jazz and more chaos and all sorts of crazy shit and listening to really avant-garde records at this point. The name Dillinger Escape Plan was also suggested by a friend of theirs named Matt Mikowski after they had watched the documentary on the infamous bank robber. But they recorded their first self-titled debut EP with Steve Evans, who would go on to produce basically all the band's classic records, if not all of them.
He's become a drinking game on this show almost.
Steve and Douches.
I'm not going to try saying his name.
Steve and Allen. We'll say that. Steve and Allen. It's like watching Home Improvement, right?
Oh yeah.
But with the EP coming out, obviously the band decides to expand upon the sounds. They go on a self-booked tour of like roughly 13 dates using a phone dialer. We've talked about those a lot in depth with a lot of different bands. And like that is such a crazy world between using that and the Book Your Own Life magazine that was there for a while, of like just all these different clubs you could call or cold call and go, hey, we need to book a show. Sure, come on, like squats and whatnot.
I mean, you and I are from the days of the MySpace booking,
Absolutely.
where every band was also a booking agent, and every town had a kid who had a place that could do shows. And like the nightmare that was, I couldn't imagine like just cold call. It's like, I wonder how many of those guys had like sales jobs. They were just like, fine, I'll be the guy who fucking calls. Have I got a deal for you? My band wants to play a Monday night. Like, it's crazy.
No, you just give us a place to stay. You don't have to pay us.
Yeah. No, we'll bring everything.
Yeah.
Just keep the doors open.
Yeah. Just keep them open. Maybe a sip of water here or there. But during this period as well, playing all of these shows, including including a show at a venue called Stalag 13 with Brutal Truth and Today Is the Day. Keep that in mind. That comes back. But the band started also experimenting with really wild stage theatrics like breathing fire, fireworks, just going ape shit. If you've seen live footage of the band, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's a Mick Foley level injury list to this band of like how many things have been broken and how many people have been hurt.
I saw them play a floor show in Louisville, Kentucky, at a place called Keswick, who people who listen are from that area might be familiar with, Swindle. And there's no stage. There's like a drum riser, which is essentially a 2x4 with like a flat box. And I saw them play there. And if you think they weren't trying to do like fire and shit, and they weren't still swinging around and hanging from things, like it's the thing of like, they're like, oh, it's like you hear about the shows, it's like, but we kind of luckily live in an age where like, oh, you can go and watch that shit.
Oh,
like,
my God.
you can't play after these guys. It's tough. I'd never want to do it.
So to kind of get off topic here for a second, the only time I've ever seen the band was on a bill with, I think it was Parkway Drive opened. It was Dillinger, Every Time I Die, and Killswitch Engage. So pretty big tour. This was on the Ironworks tour cycle. So around maybe early 2008. First song, Greg's up on scaffolding. Just immediately up, hanging upside down, mic shoved down his throat, just going at it, climbing around in this shit. I went, okay, what happens if he jumps or falls? We're fucked. Like, yeah. It's just over. But the band just went on. I think they played like 30 minutes. And again, you can't follow that up, as you said.
Like, when you start with that, like, what do you do next?
Shit in a bag?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I wasn't going to be the one to say it. But
we will discuss that for a second. I don't want to murder Swindle with this.
Yeah, I get it.
But the show at Stalag 13 ultimately starts to build buzz around the band with Relapse Records, and the band then signs to Relapse Records. The first release through Relapse was their Under the Running Board EP, released in October of '98. This is when you started to see the noticeable shift in tone for the band. Song structures, influence to the songs, a lot of breakbeat shit that we come to know and love about this band, and just it sounds like Binary. Like if there's a band that you could say sounds like Binary, it's like this band, and I'd say early Meshuggah, right?
Yeah.
Marriage. Band also did a couple 7-inch splits, one with Nora and one with Drowning Man. What I know most about Nora is Ferret Records, right?
Yeah.
Like Carl ran and owned Ferret Records, and I think Ferret's back. I think they've started to come back around.
Look, man, I saw a picture of the lead singer bleeding through and the guy from Trustkill. Anything can happen. They were just arm in arm. Yep. Anything's possible now. All Hadgets have apparently been buried.
But following the release of Under the Running Board, the band got a big jump in popularity, which is crazy to think in the underground scene. Like, so popular for the underground scene at this time was a few hundred people, but still, nonetheless, the band is doing something that is completely non-typical of this subgenre of music, which is, calling the Dillinger Escape Plan a metalcore band would be like calling Converge a hardcore band. There's just so much nuance around that, and that
Yeah.
it's a large umbrella of a subgenre at this point, especially by today's standards. But people were coming to shows to see them, and they were signed to a new label at this point. During this time, founding member John Fulton decides he no longer wants to have a career in music. And with what we discussed in our earlier episode, John and Ben's kind of writing style together, they played off of each other really well. John helped Ben kind of become the guitarist he is now and help define the sound of Dillinger Escape Plan. A lot of jazz influence, a lot of like technical expertise in there. They also dealt with their bassist Adam Dahl being involved in what many would think was a minor car accident, and it ended up making him a paraplegic for the rest of his life. And dealing with those two things right after EP's out, and then you just decide to like bulldoze through with the fucking full length. So Ben and Chris Penny, the drummer, decide to start moving forward with crafting and writing the songs that were to become Calculating Infinity. Obviously, at this point, it's Ben, Chris, and Dimitri that are the band. Brian ends up joining on guitar at a certain point for the band, but by this point, the album has pretty much been tracked yet again. It tracks East with Steve Evans once again. How long do you think we can make it through? Someone can make it through before they're just shithoused. I mean, a couple there, like Steve.
It's just,
yeah.
There's three.
Yep. Albums recorded at Tracks East yet again. During the recording process, the band runs out of fucking money. So they sell some of their rights to their music back to Relapse to help fund the album. And I think it ends up for a total of like $2,000. So the band really didn't see any residuals or any sort of payment for the album for a very long time, which
What's
is
$2,000 in 1999? Is that what it was? That's got to be
Yeah.
like what, $2,700 in 2026 money?
could be closer to 5 at this point. Oh,
Look at you.
someone pull out the inflation calculator. I
Wow.
played around with this a little bit. But also during this point, the band is getting even more attention by one Trey Spruance of Mr. Bungle, thus the band getting asked to join the Mr. Bungle tour in 1999. On the way to meet up with Mr. Bungle tour the tour, the band has got its final mixes of what is to become Calculating Infinity, and the band is not stoked. They're comparing it to a 108 record during this period of time with how it sounds and like total overall sound.
I almost, when I read this, was like, we're doing 108 Threefold Misery.
Dude,
But I don't want to because it's technically a religious record, and I don't want to offend anybody or be rude about that. I love that
108
album.
rad. That record's rad.
That album's sick. So I mean, like, if I made something and like, I mean, maybe there's some beef there we don't know about, but if I had something get returned to me and I was like, yo, this sounds like Threefold Misery, like I'd be pumped.
Yeah, that's a great record. That is a really good record.
Yeah.
It's moshy, just gnarly hardcore, and like, yeah, it's got religious leaning, but there's a couple bands out there that are far more religious than I thought that I went, okay, I get it. I see the thump in this.
Everybody's got their thing.
Right. But bands listening to it, they're just getting pissed the entire drive. Like, fuck, it doesn't hold up. We're not doing this right. Ultimately, the album is released in September of 99, and it ends up being Relapse Records' biggest selling album to that date. Which, it's selling 100,000 copies in 99 in the underground. That's a lot of fucking records, especially of this type of music.
There's bands that have like careers in this type of music now who combined probably haven't hit that.
Yeah. And, it's, sales ultimately don't matter, but during this era, they still did to an extent. Like in 99, like, yeah, comparing, Calculating Infinity selling 100,000 records to self-titled Slipknot going platinum, like
Right.
apples and oranges, two
Yeah.
completely different things. But seeing a band that is this abrasive and this polarizing, selling 100,000 copies, like I think years after that, when Shadows Falls War Within came out, I heard that album sold like 400,000 copies, and I went, that's fucking nuts. And that thing's far more accessible than this record.
Yeah.
It's like very much a dyed in the wool heavy metal record. It's just got Brian Fair like doing his thing on it. But to see that selling 400,000 copies on Century Media at that time and not going gold, like that was a big deal in like 2004, 2005.
When you see like a band like getting 100,000 records like of this ilk in 1999, like it's kind of like a weird anomaly of like how did that happen? Because like sure they were touring, but it would be dumb to say that they had ever played in front of 100,000 people at that point. You know what I mean? So it kind of becomes this thing of like for people who weren't around for it, like the message board, the tape trading, the word of mouth, like back in the day when there wasn't reliable internet access, if you heard something was cool, you just had to take a chance on it.
Yep.
And buy it at the show or at the merch table or somewhere. And then like to just have it be 100,000 at that point in time is just insane. And it probably didn't like for tours at that point in time probably didn't matter. But like for some of the later tours we're going to talk about, being able to like say you've sold a X hundreds of thousands amount of records, like probably helped then. But at this point in time, it's just kind of like just such a crazy thing to have happen.
Right. And with the release of this now lauded classic album, a couple things changed for the band. Obviously, we mentioned their bassist Adam Dahl having his accident. The band kind of went through a bit of a revolving door with fill-ins, and Ben ultimately playing most of the bass on Calculating Infinity along with Steve's help. But they ultimately find bassist Liam Wilson in the year 2000. I believe Liam was in the band Starkweather for a period of time as well. But he was a close friend. He was apparently a close friend of Liam's was reached out to about playing bass. Liam's close friend was not a bassist and said, hey, here's my buddy Liam's number. Give him a call. They obviously did. Liam kind of grew up listening to a lot of the same music these guys did. Your Faith No More, your Primus, your Bad Brains, hardcore, all of that stuff. And Liam had actually had a chance to see the band with original bassist at a show in like 97 or 98. So there's some continuity with him joining the band and along with what else we're going to talk about. But basically, Liam joins the band, fills the bassist role for the rest of the band's career. He is still currently in the version of the band that is touring now, along with being the bassist of In Flames, which is crazy to think about.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is in Flames.
Wow.
That's, yeah. I mean,
is that cool now?
I kind of throw them up there. I kind of throw them up there as like a legacy act at this point. It's like, if I go and I get to hear like Pinball Map, or if I get to go and hear like Take This Life, I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, they're not doing Clayman probably.
No, they re-recorded it recently, so I bet they are like within the last handful of years. But the guy is also an exceptionally good bass player.
Oh yeah,
he's done some stuff with like John Zorn or just all sorts of shit. Very musically adept. But during this period, you have a big change for the band that could ruin many bands. That being Dimitri Minakakis leaves the band in 2001. He left to pursue his art and photography education and his graphic design. Obviously, he has remained on very good terms with the band on talking about today's topic, but he's also been part of the Calculating Infinity kind of anniversary tours they've been doing the last handful of years. But obviously, you lose a vocalist that could either make or break a band, right? There have been tons of bands that haven't survived it. There have been a handful of bands that were able to. I mentioned Killswitch Engage earlier. They did a pretty damn good job of it, of swapping vocalists twice and only having two vocalists in the band. Shadows Fall was fairly successful with it, with going from right-wing Phil Labonte to crazy-ass Brian Fair. But there have been some bands that just shit the bed.
Labonte, huh?
Labonte.
What a cool guy.
Yeah, he's something. Oh, I forgot to mention the best one. Chris Barnes to George Fisher. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember Corpse Grinder's real name, so that's why I didn't say it. I was trying I don't want to like out myself as not being a big cannibal head.
Oh, like it's that's a lot for bands. It's different to change, even like a primary songwriter, it's kind of different to change that because you have the kind of reference material there. But with a vocalist, there's still this kind of image with a band of having a vocalist that is the kind of centerpiece. Yeah, a lot of hardcore or underground bands don't really subscribe to that thing, but it's still there. It's still there kind of in a musician's mind, right? But the band kind of took an innovative and public approach to finding a vocal replacement. They posted instrumental version of 43% Burnt on their website and basically invited all comers to apply to send in tapes. And you know it was actual tapes being sent in. I can only imagine like cassettes. I know there's probably some VHS tapes that were sent in, and like we've all seen like vocal cringe covers of the internet. So this is back when no one really knew about them except the band and whoever sent it, right?
I've never recorded vocals with the lights on because I'm just like, I don't look, if I want to laugh at how dumb I look, and if I see you guys laughing, we're not going to get through this. So it's not a matter of like, I'm embarrassed. It's a matter of like, I'll be able to keep it together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you can't, it's the dumb, you look so dumb.
It's about making any fucking face you can to get whatever sound out you want, right?
Yeah.
I know I attempted to record backing vocals one time with everybody in the room on an EP, and everybody laughed. I went, I'll never do this again. Done. And haven't done it again since. And it's like, okay, we're good. But the band, obviously, taking vocal auditions via tape. Band doesn't want to sit around, so they started doing some shows with some fill-ins. Sean Ingram of Coalesce. I mean, come on, a great fill-in there. And then I know you're
friend of the show.
Friend of the show in this band Idle
Be proud. Own it.
But also, I know we've discussed this next topic a couple times, but they got Mike Patton to sing for them, which whether you're a fan or not, that's a big fucking feat.
He's one of those people, right? Where if you can't say he's not gifted. That's insane. You're just factually incorrect.
Right.
But I put him and people like him and Les Claypool in a group of people of just kind of like, I get it, but like, I don't get it. You know, like I understand, yes, what they're doing is extremely complicated and unique, and there's a level of artistry to it that is admirable. However, when I have to listen to it, I'm just kind of like, nah. All right.
So my girlfriend is very giving and very understanding of everything I'm into and accepts me for who I am. There's 3 vocalists she can't handle. You named 2. And Patton, she's even like, okay, like I can listen to this. Les Claypool, as soon as he's on, she's like, absolutely not. Primus is a no-go. But Faith No More, she's like, this is fine. Mr. Bungle, she's like, okay, I need a break after this, but I get it. Pepper Keenan from Corrosion of Conformity. I think it's because there's kind of a, yeah, brother, kind of rock and roll vibe to his voice a little bit. But I'm like, oh, fuck it. It's Pepper Keenan, man. I'd listen to this.
What are you talking about?
I'd listen to this man read a Goosebump book. Like,
look, if I didn't know that you were overkicking your coverage, I'd be like, you got cut her loose, man. But like, I know. Real recognizes real, brother. I get it.
Yeah.
They don't give you a lot of rules, but when they do, you're like, that's probably a serious one.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, we don't have to listen to that. Then like,
I won't make Emily listen to The Locust.
Oh.
I won't do it.
Right. I mean, fuck.
But she'll listen to the Blood Brothers with me. I'm just like, yo, there's a, no pun intended, like a bug's hair length of difference between what one's doing and the other's doing.
Bill, she is very like on the fence about, she's like, oh, he sounds really good here. And then she'll hear like some deep cut off of like A Bustle in Your Hedgerow. And she's like, oh man, that is like butt rock if I've ever heard it. I was like, come on. But I get it. It's okay. It's all right.
Yep.
But anyway, they release an EP with Mike Patton on vocals, which not only did they get him to fill in, but they got to record with him of like new material, which is the irony is the Dead Scene EP. And Ben has even noted to say that it was like working with one of the greatest singers of our time, and it raised the bar for what they expected from a permanent replacement. Out of the many audition tapes, vocalist Greg Puciato stood out for its technical accuracy and creative range. So, I've told you in the past, I am a huge fan of Greg, and I think when I think of Dillinger, he is the vocalist. Warts and all. Like, the guy's a prolific vocalist, prolific musician, whether you like his stuff or not. Interesting backstory here. I wore the Black Flag shirt kind of as a nod to this. Like, Greg was like 20, 21 years old when he joined Dillinger, and he stepped into a band as he quoted and said, it's like Henry joining Black Flag. He saw Black Flag as becoming much more feral than it already was. And it's like, oh, I've never made that correlation at all. And I go, I fucking get it. Because
Which you wouldn't really like when you compare what the album we're going to talk about versus like the albums we've talked about. Like to say that this stuff is more feral is like, well, I would like to know what your assessment of that means.
Sure.
Because to me, it's I won't say it's toned down by any means, but like there's a lot more like melody and like method to it. So I guess I mean like feral is in like live show, absolutely, possibly. I never caught the calculating lineup live, but I have seen this lineup half a dozen times at this point. So I mean, yeah. So I guess the feral. I guess if you had to compare Keith Morris to Rollins, I think a word you would use for the transition would be feral.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's that's kind of what I took it as too, because obviously the record we're talking about today has much more melody. Maybe it's subdued in some areas, but far more experimental in different areas, right? But maybe not as feral. I think it is definitely live show wise. I think he saw that and went, "This is my stage. This is I'm going to treat it like I'm going to." And boy, did he ever! But a little bit of background on Greg here. Baltimore, Maryland-based vocalist, grew up in Baltimore City proper. He apparently became familiar with Dillinger Escape Plan when they were opening up for Mr. Bungle, went to that tour. A friend had showed him the Under the Running Board EP. He was really impressed with it. And he actually purchased, so this has been debated too. We talked about in our last episode, but I've heard a lot of Greg's interviews where he talked about going and purchasing a copy of Calculating Infinity on the release day from a record store called Reptilian Records. So I looked it up. The record store exists. It's still there. So I think in the last episode, we said he bought it on tour. I don't know which is which, but he got the album really early on. But as I mentioned, Greg grew up in Baltimore City. He was exposed to hip hop and R&B at an early age, but he was also exposed to like old school classic rock by his dad. So like Aerosmith, Van Halen, some Elton John in there as well, which, it's funny to think that, but like I do hear a little bit of that in him.
Plus Elton John fucking rules.
That's what I'm saying. Like I hear a little bit of that in his tone. The first band he actually became obsessed with, which was when he was like 7 or 8 years old, was Guns N' Roses and the release of Appetite for Destruction. And the first recordings he ever did with the band were covers. And one of them happened to be a cover of My Michelle from Appetite, which is bonkers sounding. It is absolutely like, how can we piss off the old heads?
I would like to add Axl Rose to that list of people with the caveat of like, I don't get it.
Sure. Yeah.
Of just like he is a guy that comes on and I'm just like, yo, this band would rip so hard if they literally like, I was like, they didn't have anyone else they could call.
Right.
Axl's the only guy who showed up.
I love the Appetite for Destruction record, but I agree wholeheartedly. Weakest link in the band.
Yeah.
Weakest link in the band. But with Greg being into music during this period of time, I'm assuming around 87, 88. Obviously, you get your gateway bands in. He's looking for something more aggressive, more dark, more complicated. He sees the video for One on Headbangers Ball, and he's like, oh, music can be this dark and this intense. This is fucking great. And
is that the Soldier one? The body cast one?
Yep. That's Johnny Got His Gun. Yep. And he is all in at this point in time. He said it was the darkest thing he'd seen at that point. Earlier, a friend had tried to get him into Kill 'Em All, and he's like, I'm just not ready for that yet. And he sees One, goes backwards, obviously gets into the classic stuff. But he dives further down the thrash rabbit hole, getting into band like all the Bay Area bands, your Megadeth, your Slayers. But he said another life-changing point for him was when somebody gave him a copy of Bad Brains' Eye Against Eye. And just like, I didn't even.
That'll happen.
Again, didn't make that correlation till I heard him say that and went, yep, I can see every single bit of this. He's mentioned being into bands like Faith No More, Bad Brains, Living Color, which a ripper of a fucking band. Primus being one. We've talked about all these bands with very polarizing sounding vocalists and intense vocalists and kind of weirdly chaotic music, and he was just all for it. He had started playing music with a friend really early on, like ages 9 through 12. He started playing guitar, friends started playing drums. As Greg got more into vocals, he was singing and playing. He actually couldn't necessarily do this maneuver with singing and playing. And it's like, I'm just gonna do vocals. He's like, I'll just do that. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And as I mentioned, HR Bad Brains and all of those other vocalists I mentioned just really gave him a step forward in the right direction. But he became privy of the fact that Dillinger was looking for a vocalist through a friend at a Candiria show. I've never spent a ton of time with Candiria. That's a band I have not spent the time with and want to. I know they're like right in the same realm, like weirdly jazzy, kind of nuanced, just nutso fucking music.
Candiria was a band that I heard like through like you said, like samplers.
Sure.
That we've talked about before. Like you pay $3, here's 40 songs.
Yeah.
And Candiria was on one of those, and I think I always forget the name of the album, but it's the album with the destroyed van.
Oh,
because they were in a apparently they were in a really horrible van accident.
terrible.
Yeah. It's that album. And if you're into like stop and go, like hardcore, I won't say necessarily, I don't really consider them like a metalcore band to me. They're more of like a straightforward, just like hardcore, like stop and go, a little bit of off time signature, but there's not a lot of like noodling. It's more of like how do I define New York hardcore meets gent, but like of that time. Great records, a very underappreciated, under talked about band. Unfortunately, probably what some people would call a band's band, maybe but yeah, they're undisputed great band.
I've seen their name dropped a lot when people will refer to the band Car Bomb a lot, kind of in that same realm of just odd time, but still like just thumping kind of just gnarly riffs, basically.
Candiria is a very bouncy band. That's what I would describe them. Drummer is a very accomplished jazz musician. I know the other guitar players are probably, I think they play, I'm going to ruin it. Is it flamenco? Not being trying to be
you got it. You got it.
Yeah. One of those guys is like an accomplished, like just Spanish style guitar player. They rip.
Killer. But Greg reaches out to the band via Ben's personal email and explained that he felt he could push the band further than where they'd been before. He sent the tape in, which included a great reproduction of Dimitri's vocal style on 43% Burnt, but he also included a version that was his own styling as well. And apparently the band was so impressed that they had even like discussed with their manager already, going like, yeah, this is the guy, but we've got more tapes. We just recently did a Rush episode, and it's very similar to that sense of like, we know this is the guy, but we got other guys to try out as well. But he was invited to practice in September of 2001 and officially made his debut at the CMJ Music Fest that November. So very short turnaround time. Go in, learn all these songs, learn to sing them, and just go out and have your way with the crowd. As I mentioned, Greg's first recordings were covers. They were actually Black Flag's Damaged Parts 1 and 2 that was released on Black, a tribute to Black Flag. There's a Black Dahlia Murder cover on that album, and I can't remember what song they do. But I remember downloading that compilation and just going, this shit rips. I think there's a Most Precious Blood cover on there. Bleeding Through did My War. That was on there, and like just a ton of really great bands of that time doing covers of classics. But those vocals were tracked in Ben's bedroom, by the way. So first vocal recording, still very punk rock when it comes to that. There's a long time between Greg joining the band and the Miss Machine album being recorded. There's roughly about 3 to 4 years in total. Basically, the band does a fuckload of touring during this period of time, and there's some
road dogs.
Absolutely, there's some of note, but this was also during an era where a lot of that stuff wasn't being recorded just yet, and tours were tours, and a lot of these were underground tours, just as like Pat mentioned, like playing on floors and playing at VFW halls and all of that, but the band did get the opportunity of note to play Europe for the first time or one of the first times in 2002, opening for System of a Down. Like, of all bands, that band, like, to what you would normally think are completely polar opposite bands. But the guys in Dillinger kind of looked at them as like, if there was a band we were to tour with from this era, it would probably be System of a Down, Deftones, and probably Tool, right? Like, the weirder bands. And they go on the tour, and apparently it's kind of a toss-up. The band has said like they've never been booed more in their life, but they also had a lot of fans that were coming back when they'd come back later on and do UK and European tours. The band also did Download Fest, and this is the infamous poop story. There's footage out there I know exists, but I'm not going to go look for it. But apparently, I remember reading a really early like Guitar World blurb on the band. And it was talking about Greg going on stage in front of all these like Radio Rock fans, shits in a bag, possibly wipes it on himself a little bit, holds the bag up, and just screams, "You're going to be seeing a lot of this shit tonight," and whiffs it into the crowd. The band apparently had to ask to go back to the UK to like be allowed because they committed so many acts of like public indecency because it was at a venue or it was at a outdoor festival with that many people. They basically counted for every ticket sold. It was like 65,000 counts of this. So band was able to tour UK and Europe again after that though.
UK law, huh?
Yeah, UK. But apparently the band, as Pat said, were road dogs during this time, playing multiple festivals and Crazy Fest was a big deal in Louisville, and the band played there numerous times. The band was also doing the Take Action tour, which was still going on until like 2010 or 11. I remember seeing that name of like different.
Kind of makes you wonder how much action was being taken if it took 7 years.
Took a long time, but like looking at the list of bands that were playing this era of it, like very of the time, right? Like the Poison the Wells, Shai Hulud, 18 Visions, Avenged Sevenfold was playing at this time, which is crazy to think. Shadows Fall, Throwdown, Himsa, like great bands, great bands. But the band basically is during this period of time is starting to already write and plan out what's to come for their follow-up, which ends up being 2004's Miss Machine. But to kind of break up the gap in time, Relapse Records releases a live album in January 2003 called Cursed, Unshaven, and Misbehavin' Live Infinity. I don't know if you could get away with that title now.
There's a couple titles they got going on later on that I'm just kind of like, probably wouldn't look too good on a MySpace or an Instagram ad.
No. I think we're good on that one. The first original song with Greg on the vocals comes out on the Underworld soundtrack, Baby's First Coffin. I don't remember much of that soundtrack. I've never actually seen those movies, but I feel like in some research for a few older episodes, that soundtrack had a ton of shit on it. Like the Freddy versus Jason soundtrack was another one.
There was I'm gonna out myself. There's a Finch song on that Underworld soundtrack that is like the only recording of this song, and it sucks that it's the only place it's there. It's like, I better go order the Underworld soundtrack.
Hey man, sometimes shitty movies have good soundtracks.
Scream 3. Look at the track listing.
Wait and Bleed.
Creed's on there. Finger 11's got a ripper on there. Incubus has a song.
I remember that soundtrack quite well. I stole it from a really young friend of mine, like when I was kids. I was like, this is mine now.
It's good.
Really good soundtrack. But before we get into the bells and whistles of Miss Machine, just a couple other things. Miss Machine, the title, is kind of refers to control, basically control and kind of the human element a little bit here. Like the Miss side is the human element, and the machine is like the control element. So basically balancing like artistic life and normal bullshit, right? But however, they did want to make an album that the songs were a little bit more diverse, to give them a little bit more longevity as a band, to not allow them to be pigeonholed as just like the crazy metalcore band or the crazy hardcore band. They also wanted to do kind of more traditional songwriting in the Dillinger style, and that way it didn't just seem like they were playing random parts. Although this record proves that there's still elements of that there, albeit it does feel more kind of verse, chorus, verse, right? The lineup that would be on this band is the lineup we mentioned. You finally get some recording from Brian Benoit, other than just like a few little guitar things here or there from Calculating Infinity. He is part of the band. It is funny because in prepping for the episode, like you look at pronunciation of names, and I knew how to pronounce Brian's name immediately because I grew up a wrestling fan. It's like, oh yeah, it's the same one.
Whoa! We can't talk about him.
He's gone. We don't have to get in there, but it's like that's how I learned to pronounce it. Thank you, Canadian wrestling.
I'm the same way with hockey. I don't butcher names typically because I watch a lot of hockey.
Sure.
So I can nail it. If they're North American, I can pretty much figure it out.
But production again handed by Sir Steve Evans. But it wasn't held only at Tracks East. The band decided to record at multiple studios to kind of give themselves some free time, give themselves a little bit more control to this. But the band also like was touring so much, they basically would tour, earn a little bit of money, go and record a block of songs. Tour some more, earn some more money, record a block of songs. So they maneuvered through multiple studios, different blocks of time, spread out over, 2 to 3 years of recording. And it allowed them to fully control this, but I do think there are some aspects of that recording style that doesn't benefit this record. But again, working with Steve Evans, recorded to Pro Tools this go around. But the album songs were written from basically the point that Greg joined the band. Basically, the bridge riff of Panasonic Youth was around from the day Greg joined the band. Like he brought it in, was like, hey, I have this. Song wasn't done for a long time, but he had it. The first song completed for the record was Van Damsel. Second song, the second song that the band started writing and completed was Setting Fire to Sleeping Giants, which is we'll get into that. Panic Sonic Youth was like the second to last song written. Unretrified was put together in one instance by Ben. Like Ben had everything, came to the studio and said, it's done. And it's like, here's the music, you guys learn it, the nuance of that track. But they basically finished the writing around 2003 for this album. We Are the Storm was the very last song written for the band. And the band seems to be very set that nothing's ever done. You can always keep expanding. So you basically just have to go, this is what we have to do. Just give it to the record label. Let's go. It's done. It's as done as it can be. But the band had been playing these songs live for so long, they had different forms and different variations are. So just constantly working. But again, the album was completed. Band runs out of money yet again when recording because they're moving around, doing all this shit. I don't think they sold any. I don't think they had to sell the rights back to Relapse again, but Relapse did have to step in, which was like, you're done. You're good to go.
And I think it was probably a good decision.
Yeah, I have one glowing kind of gripe about the record. And it involves not necessarily songs. It involves kind of the other elements of it, the sonic elements of it. And while recording all of this, to say that they didn't have looming pressure or anxiety on them, I'd be incorrect because they knew what Calculating Infinity did. They knew how successful that record was, and they knew that was there. They knew it was looming. One, they didn't want to repeat themselves. They wanted to outdo Calculating Infinity, but you've also got a new vocalist stepping in, not only after the original vocalist, but also a legendary vocalist in Mike Patton of going, how do I step into these shoes and not just become a version of that? How do I go in and deal with the pressures of having everybody looking at me, all eyes on me? What can I do? I'm the first thing they're going to hear on this record. So like dealing with that, and when you first hear the record, you go, okay, it's fine. Things are great. Yeah. Things are kosher. But again, they wanted to top it. They also didn't pay attention to any other bands at the time. They did not want that to influence what they were doing. They didn't want it to change how they sounded. They didn't want to go with like trends. They just wanted to be Dillinger Escape Plan. So it's like, here's the Dillinger Escape Plan bubble, purely this, right? As I mentioned, multiple studios. Drums were tracked at Water Music in Hoboken, New Jersey, and Mission Sound in Williamsburg. They set up a kind of a guerrilla studio in the rehearsal space. So like early Pro Tools, right? Like early like software recording, that sort of thing. And they did like overdubs in this period of time too at that same rehearsal spot. But they also recorded at Mission Sound in Brooklyn, New York. And the album was mixed at Quad Recording Studios in Times Square. So a lot of the general area of where this band's from, right?
Yeah.
So just back and forth there. But the band were also reinvigorated by having new members contribute to the new album. Liam and Greg's first album, and Brian, as I mentioned, finally getting to contribute. So with all of that said, on the production side, on the writing side, guts and all, it's a Dillinger Escape Plan record. It's also kind of a new band overall, like 3 new members essentially. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. So Pat, you being a fan of this band prior to this album.
Yeah.
First listen.
So I actually, I get the microphone. I actually saw them in 2003. It was late. It was either super late 2003 or super early 2004. I saw them with a band called Wrangler Brutes, which is like just a almost like Circle Jerks kind of sounding punk band. The Locusts were the support act, and then Dillinger Escape Plan. I had only ever heard, I'd played through all the Dillinger releases like multiple times. Like I was only ever hearing like the screaming.
Sure.
Dillinger comes on, they've got like light boxes, the whole nine. They rip right into, I want to say Panasonic Youth. Like they rip right into, that was the first song. And everyone's kind of caught off guard because they're like, okay, first time we're seeing the new guy and nobody knows what this song is. And people were like hesitant about it at first. And then they kind of like did like a medley of like older stuff. So when I saw them, I say all that to say this, like they did play a couple of new songs and like he was going for it. And people, the first time he did it, people were kind of like, you could tell the crowd was just kind of like, hey, come on now, what's this about? But like, because he's such a presence live, and like, it like, there's a level to it where it didn't seem like they were trying to do that. Like they weren't trying to write like a chorus that he could come in and sing over, which was of the time. And I think with those early shows, I wonder if there was ever like a little bit of fear from longtime fans of like, oh, the trend now is to have a singy chorus. Is this their version of that? And I don't know how those people feel about this album.
And I think that's the big thing. They knew an aspect of their fans or a percentage of their fans weren't going to like this. And I think that's ballsy too, to go like, we know they're probably not going to like this, but we know that other people will like it too. There's going to be a percentage of our fans that will take it and run with that. And you get a lot of that on this record. I think there's some moments on here that rival the intensity, if not step above it from the last record. I mean, you mentioned Panasonic Youth. That's a jarring, intense, just bam. It's right there. It's in your face immediately.
Do you think the starting the song with everything going at once was on purpose? Like they were like, hey, the first thing you're going to hear is the band all together.
I think that was intentional for sure. I think with the way the songs were written, they definitely sequenced it in a way that would happen, because there's actually a few tracks on here that start that way. I think there's a lot of, to use Swindle's phrase, of just like musicians being dicks and just upturning the apple cart and just pissing on everybody. Like, hey, if you think this is going to be calculating part 2, it's not. Fuck you.
Nope.
Like you're getting elements of that because that's us, but we've got this new vocalist. We have a new, essentially a new rhythm section, like locking in with Chris, and we've got all of these new progressive leaning elements to this album that were much different on the album prior, much more thought out, much more fleshed out. The band felt a little bit more comfortable, maybe even a little bit more confident in their approach on this one. But like, there's still stuff on here that I hear that's like, oh yeah, that would have fit right in on Calculating. It's not so jarringly different.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go as far as saying the opening. I mean, I know we're not going to go track by track here, but on Sunshine the Wolf, like it starts out, there's like a measure and a half of like a 43% fake out. Yep. Like if you hear it and you're just like, oh sweet, and then it's like, oh no, he's gonna, and I'm gonna use this word lightly and I mean it respectfully. There's a little sassy on this one.
Oh, 100%.
There's some sass on this.
There's a lot of sass all over this thing. And then, Sunshine the Werewolf, bringing that up, like, I mentioned the breakbeat drums earlier. There's breakbeat drums all over that, and like
Yeah.
there's a ton of like electronic sequencing on that track. That's the first track on the record you really hear that on. And you also get to hear Greg layering his voices for the first time. Greg's kind of like a Swiss Army knife.
It's got the meanest lyrics on the album
Oh.
in this song. I think it's Destroyer. There'll never be another just like you. You're not the only one. You're just another. And then at the end, he comes with, without my existence, you are nothing. And that's just such a like, it, something this record does do of other records in metal at this time is you can understand what Greg is saying. Maybe not as clearly as some of the other stuff, but a lot more clearly than on the Dimitri records. And I think that, again, I'm a lyric guy, so like I like hearing that stuff. So to me, like that for whatever reason in metal, it's like, no, I can hear them.
Right, right.
True enough. It's like, man, come on now. It's like the guitar players are going to guitar. Let Greg.
Right. I'm a big vocal guy, even though I may not necessarily be a lyrics guy. A vocalist can make or break a band for me. If I hear it, because vocals are dead center, they're a huge center point to every record. And if a vocalist is annoying or something about it is annoying to me, I can't do it. Riffs could be amazing, but I just can't do it. I'll use Nevermore, for instance. Not necessarily my style of heavy music, but vocally, great vocalist, just can't get past it. And there's a lot of bands I've attempted to listen to that are like that. And I get that 100%, but I can also get the fact of like, oh, at this point in time when I heard this record, I'd already heard Faith No More. I knew what I was hearing. I also get the Trent Reznor isms from old Greg on here.
Did you read my notes?
Swindle and I talked about it too. I was like, oh yeah, he's
Okay.
There's a Fragile fan or a Downward Spiral fan all over this.
I'll tell you this right now. I don't take Trent Reznor serious as a human being for one reason. He's too friggin' handsome. Too handsome to be that sad. I see the women throwing themselves at Trent Reznor who worship at the Nine Inch Nails altar. And I'm like, yo, bro, your problems are these are interior. You got to get over that. Look at this exterior world you brought upon yourself.
You expect him to look like Billy Corgan, right? For as sad as he is, I'm like, Billy, I get. Like, I clearly get. Like,
right.
Billy, I get. But like, you see Trent and you're like, oh man, that's a chiseled jaw if I've ever seen one.
And then you realize he jacked too. You're like, come on now, say something for the rest of us, bro.
There was that period he was jacked up.
Yeah.
Man, we gotten off topic on this, but anyway.
No, we haven't because like there's like the Nine Inch Nails is so. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're just having a good time.
Yeah.
I like in the first song and in Sunshine the Werewolf. So we are going by tracks, right? Like we're kind of teetering. We're hinting at the Nine Inch Nails influence and like bands that have never made any sense to me. It's Nine Inch Nails, and the reason is the production.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's no low end. It's all high and mid range, and it drives me insane because it doesn't sound heavy. It just sounds like static.
Whereas, to use another industrial reference here, Godflesh has so much balls to it. Ministry, I think Ministry's heavy as shit, especially some of those early records. But no, I get it. But the Nine Inch Nails kind of influence on not only just Greg's voice, but I think a lot of Chris and Ben's approach to the keyboards and synth writing on this, which they both had a major hand on. There are points on this record where I think they were just sitting with a keyboard, just figuring out what they could put on this and like sequencers and all of that.
I think that just kind of, because they're the first two songs on the album, and I remember listening to this the first time being like, oh man, don't do it. Don't jump into the Nine Inch Nails pool, please.
Well, you get that with Phone Home.
Yeah,
like full on.
My note here is this is the second time I've listened to this since this album came out.
Really?
It's a skip for me.
His best Reznor were my notes.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, so this one is like straight up Nine Inch Nails to me.
Sure. In
a way where I was just kind of like, this is, when it comes to Nine Inch Nails, I need more Sunshine the Werewolf and a little less Perfect Drunk. You know what I mean? Like if it's going to exist, like have it be an accompaniment or something as like a cool part in a bridge that like adds to the atmosphere of the song, right? And I get that. So when it's being used as like as a in addition to, I'm fine with. But when it becomes like the focus is we're gonna do this type of thing, I was like, ugh, did not hit for me.
It's a full-on synth track, right? It's a synth track where the verses are purely that, and the choruses are these huge, like, kind of punk rock kind of things, right? We look at like tracks like Highway Robbery, which still has some synth and sequency going on in the bridge, which is used tastefully. You've even got some kids chattering, like with samples going on. But again, it almost feels like the album is a taste of what the band were to be for the rest of its career, right?
Right.
You look at the immediate follow-up to this album, Ironworks, and there's a lot of electronic elements on that, but it feels like the electronic elements on that record were much more fundamental. Like it felt like they were much more rooted.
It to me, like on the later stuff when they start incorporating keyboards, it becomes more of like the Prodigy. Like I'm not super into that kind of stuff, but like they're it's an electronic band. I don't know if it's one person. I've never been too familiar with the music, but like that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, this is just like a driving like beat machine, like drum bass kind of stuff. That I can get into. It's when it starts being like wah, 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 where I'm like, come on now.
These are the elements that a person that was really into calculating infinity, like the fan of the Dillinger Escape Plan at this time probably heard and went, "The fuck are we doing? Like what?
That guy's this guy.
Yeah, right.
Let's stop pulling punches. That guy's this guy.
There's no punches being pulled.
Yeah.
I'll shit on the dash of your car. Like it's just
do it.
It's all there. But with tracks of that nature, you've still got like Baby's First Coffin, which I mentioned was on the Underworld soundtrack, and it's just fucking crazy. There's a ton of shit going there. I mean, there's a point at the end of that and like this crescendo that's going on that has Greg singing at the top of his range. It is absolutely the top of his range. And he's then shrieking those notes to end it all, which is a thing that he does a lot that I like, which is this, I've sung as high as I can, now I'm going to pitch scream even higher to match that. It's like the Cemetery Gates thing, but it's like, all right, I'm doing it with myself. And to see the vocal kind of prowess this guy has at such a young age at 21 is pretty fucking nuts. And he still sounds that way, 20 plus years later, very much sounds the same. Looking at tracks like Baby's First Coffin, Setting Fire to Sleeping Giants, which is creepy and vibey, but it also has has one of my favorite Greg vocal performances, which is like this kind of Tom Waits thing at like 2 minutes in where he's really gruff and kind of lower in register. It's like, oh, bring it on.
Dude, you and I have like the exact same notes for this, but like in a different way.
Okay.
Because this is my favorite song on the album. I think this song is fucking sick.
Killer song.
People would like to think that they'd be like crossed arms about this. Like, oh, I bet that song doesn't pop live. No, I've seen them play this live half a dozen times. It rips. They have a killer time because it's not the typical, like, I got to look at the neck kind of thing. They're going off. Every time I've seen this play, people sing along. They know the words. And like you said, like this is the one where like Greg is going like full bore and he's teetering. And like I was talking to Emily about this. I was like, yo, this song sounds like a Danny Elfman tech metal. This is like not because I was joking about like it's kind of maybe what's the gentleman from Devin Townsend project. Like it's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of that. Like it's the most some just kind of like when they wrote that song, Baby's First Coffin, I wonder if there was a part of them, the group together was like, oh, we're this band now. Like, this is where, like, I wonder if that's where it's like, oh, this is what we can do. Because I think that Baby's First Coffin, you could also put that song on Ironworks and it fits there as well.
When we do have the Ironworks episode, I can't wait to talk about some of the continuation that goes on between these two records. But like Setting Fire to Sleeping Giants becomes a kind of a hit for this band along with Panasonic Youth, but Unretrified. That to me is the polarizing song on the record because it's this kind of 6-minute, elaborately dense back and forth of like synth bass and drums and just these huge, huge fucking choruses. Like these are radio rock choruses. And I love the track. I think it's odd that it's it's the second to last song. I like the structure of it as well. I also like the fact that the band's not really ever played it live. They played it a handful of times. They played it on their last like sets that they did in New York from this era. And it's got so much shit going on. And I mean, being two bass players here, Liam's a sick player and Liam carries this song. He's actually playing bass, doing walking bass lines and these kind of synthy sounds going on. And the bridge, it's just atonal. And it's this fuzzed out, like just gross sounding shit. And Greg's like screaming into a distorted mic. And I think this song is cool as shit. It's arguably the catchiest song on the record.
Now I feel bad. I don't like this one at all. So my notes for Baby First Coffin is when I mentioned for Setting Fire for Sleeping Giants. I'm like my note here was like more Danny Elfman tech metal.
Sure.
Like more of that. And then for Unretrified, I wrote, be careful what you wish for. Because like this song, I'm just like this. Okay, great. It's like someone came and was like, hey, Setting, I love it. More Setting Fire, more stuff like that. And then they come up with Unretrified. Someone had to walk in and go, no, more of the other stuff from that song.
And that may be why they haven't played it live. Like maybe it is just like, maybe it doesn't work well live. Maybe it doesn't translate well. Maybe this is one of those tracks that's like, some bands will do it. They'll record tracks that they'll never play live. They're like, this is purely just a weird one for the studio.
We're artists.
We're fucking nutcases.
They played this when I saw them in Atlanta on their final tour with Greg. So they did play this. Funny story about this song. So Emily had been getting we went to Atlanta for two things. So Emily could get tattooed and I could go to Dillinger Escape Plan final tour. Emily's getting drilled on for like 6 hours. Oh. And then we go to this show that's like in an old movie theater. So like from like 10 rows forward, they've removed the seats. But from 10 rows back, you can sit down. So she's like, best day of my life. Like I get to sit down and watch Dillinger Escape Plan, who she's not like super familiar with, but tolerates it because of me. So she fell asleep during Car Bomb because Car Bomb was the opener. So she fell asleep during Car Bomb. And then I had to wake her up because I had to go pee, so I needed her to move her legs. So I come back, and she's dozing again. And she wakes up as Dillinger starts playing because they've got the light show going. So she wakes up, like she's awake and watching Panasonic Youth. And then she sits down and falls asleep. And then she wakes up again during Unretrified. And she said, I thought Dillinger was the last band to play. She thought it was a different band. Because she was sitting down. She wasn't awake for him. She's like, the Dillinger's playing last. And I'm like, no, it's still them. And she goes, oh, are they going to do that trumpet song?
Oh, from the next record.
Which from on Ironworks.
Milk Lizard, right?
Yeah, Milk Lizard. Yeah.
And again, more Danny Elfman, right? The trumpets and everything. But again, couple polarizing tracks on this record for sure. But you get all the elements that made Dillinger before, maybe a little bit more fundamentalized, right? Maybe they're more comfortable with it. Maybe it is starting to become their sound. You know, they're feeling out what they want to be. You end on the perfect design. You end on just, as I put it in my notes, one last round of pain. The opening of the song, I've said this a lot on the episode, it's like a tool chest going down a flight of stairs, to quote Home Alone. It is just chaos all the way down. Yep. It's the song kind of disintegrates into itself at the end of it. I mean, it's like a doom riff to end it out. They end on a fucking gnarly note. You know, it's a polarizing record. It's atonal, it's melodic, it's dissonant, it's intense, it's jarring. It's a Dillinger the Escape Plan record.
I wish I liked it more in retrospect. And it's tough because like Dillinger, I celebrate the entire catalog. So when I listen to them, I put on my listening device and I just go to shuffle.
Sure.
And it wasn't until going back and sitting down with this that I was like, oh, the songs that I like from this, I really like. And the songs that I'm kind of like iffy on, I'm like, oh, I don't think I like these songs. You know what I mean? It's this thing of like, they're not bad. And I mean, because Dillinger's like, I don't think they're capable of writing like what you just said. This is a bad song. Like, I just don't think that's in their it's in their capabilities. But it's just that like, when I thought this is gonna sound so shitty of me, is like I thought a lot of the songs that I liked more were on this record, and that's just that's a bummer because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be here and be like, I don't like this album because I do like it, but it's not one that I listen to all the way through like I do some of their other albums.
Sure. You and I have talked off air about this too, where I think we're both pretty big fans of the album after this.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of that record. And even I look at that record and go, there's a couple things I definitely would change for sure. But that record does even seem more of a cemented version of this because that lineup has the core basis of the band is cemented on this record and moves forward. So it's the same three guys on that record, which is Greg, Liam, and Ben, because I believe, yeah, Chris had left before that, and we'll get into that. So the album releases on July 20th of 2004. It ends up later on becoming the band's like biggest selling record to date. Also, Relapse in 2004 is a pretty nuts kind of period of time. This comes out in July. Roughly a month later, you get Leviathan. So two hugely experimental bands releasing two albums in the same year. Shit's popping for Relapse Records. Dillinger's first record in 5 years. A lot of time has changed. They were touring already before it, and they're going to continue touring. I mean, there's a tour right out the gate when the album is released, and it's with the Bronx, Planes Mistaken for Stars, and Decahedron. We're going to go with that one. There's also a tour in the fall of '04 with Every Time I Die, Zale, Misery Signals. This tour is called Miss Machine Gets Pregnant and is sponsored by Hot Topic. But also during this period, the band had like voter registration at their booth, which is kind of cool. This was during the era where like Fat Mike did his like vote against Bush shit too, like Warped Tour. So like very, very on par, very of the time. The band would then continue to do multiple other tours, obviously doing really big tours too. I didn't even realize this. The Dillinger Escape Plan opened the Subliminal Versus World Tour with Lamb of God and Slipknot in the U.S., which that's a weird thing because Slipknot took a lot of big underground bands out on that tour. Lamb of God, Shadows Fall, Unearth, I think As I Lay Dying was on one.
Hatebreed did a couple runs with Slipknot early on. So,
dude, that was almost one of my first shows I ever went to. It was Slipknot headlining, Slayer was direct support, and then Hatebreed opened. And it was at an amphitheater in Arkansas. And I was 14. I couldn't get someone to take me. I mean, that would have been like Ozfest at that point for me.
You'd be so much weirder if that had been your first one.
You know, my first show was terrible. It was Three Doors Down headlining.
Okay.
Nickelback direct support.
Gotcha.
Puddle Mud before that.
Ooh.
12 Stone.
Yikes.
First show.
All right. So you don't feel alone. This is not one-upping. Right. This is so you don't have to feel bad, brother. My first show ever. All right. Hootie the Blowfish.
Hey.
Okay. At a Nissan plant in Smyrna, Tennessee.
Yo.
Corporate cookout.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's one of those. That's perfect.
It was a paid event.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. I give that. My second show was Velvet Revolver. So, which is cooler than the first one, but you're still like, that's Scott Weiland.
Bush was my second show.
But you're a fan of Bush too.
Yeah, in more ways than you could ever believe, brother.
Mines. But they go on to continue touring. A tour that is a little bit more in their realm. They tour with the number 12 Looks Like You, Heads Will Roll, and Zombie, which is, I think, an electronic band that Relapse had signed for many years. Cool shit. They also were on the 2005 version of the Warped Tour for about 7 days, and I think every day there was fear of them getting kicked off. They're like, we did some shit. We've made somebody mad. There's even a point where a kid gets hit with a microphone stand, and they check on the kid. The kid's like, I'm okay. I'm good. Don't kick him off. And it's like, This is great. I mean, I remember reading an interview with Ben where he said he lobbed a guitar across the venue at a mirror, and some poor woman walked in the way. And it's
Oh
like,
no.
this is that era. This is before like iPhones were a thing. So like that poor person. But
I've got I'm gonna send them to Austin. I've got photos of the Dillinger Escape Plan Locust show that he could slap in here of like looking up at Ben, and he's not fucking around. I mean,
He's
there's
not
parts where
there.
he takes the guitar and just starts like doing like a hula hoop around his arm, and I'm like, yo man, the exit in stage is at your nipples. You gotta slow down, bud. Like we're right up front now. Is like, man, come on now, like you're being irresponsible.
I like going to shows sometime and being scared of what could happen. There's that nervous anxiety that hits you in the chest. You're like, I don't know what the fuck may happen here, but this is rad.
Yeah,
Obviously I'm older. I don't necessarily want that all the time, but there are a few shows I'm like, yeah, what the fuck is
I
going
think we
on?
could use more of that.
I don't necessarily always agree to that. Sometimes I
I'm
just
not
want
pro
to go
banana man. I'm anti banana man.
bringing it back. I am very much like some nights I just want to go see Cannibal Corpse do the thing. I'm like, I'm gonna see like Righteous Tunes, but then I also want to go to a show and go, who's getting stabbed because of where we're at,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
But as we mentioned, stage antics and injuries that this band have accrued throughout the years. The band loses what they thought was going to be a core member in Brian Benoit. He suffers an injury and is replaced on their European tour. I believe he also fills in like keyboards and does some synth sounds during this, but ultimately this leads to him leaving the band due to all these injuries. There's been interviews with Ben where he's like, he can't move his neck anymore. Like his shoulders are all fucked up. I think he's had a rotator cuff replacement, like all sorts of shit from doing this. I mean, to a point, right before a European tour, Ben is involved in a car accident, avoids doctor's orders, goes on said European tour. They're playing a show in Madrid. Motherfucker blacks out because of the injuries and goes home, and they just resume the tour. They just resume the tour 3 weeks later. And it's like, fuck, still gonna play ball, right? It's still your fucking set.
You got checks. You got bills. You got 20 minutes you got to fill.
They ain't paying bills with this shit. Not in this period of time.
No.
But I'd say one of the weirder tours they were on was 2005's Gigantour. Gigantour only lasted a couple years, but it essentially was Megadeth's version of a touring festival. And the bands that they chose in '05 were Megadeth headlining, Anthrax on a few dates. I think this was right as Joey Belladonna joined the band again, which is their classic vocalist. Dream Theater's on it, which is crazy. Fear Factory I think released one of their best records in 2004, that being Archetype. It's fucking rad.
You're an architect over the humanize, whatever.
Demanufacture? No.
There you go. Yeah.
I do prefer Demanufacture, but I think Archetype is one of that band's better records.
Okay. All right.
I think it's a really good tribute to what that band used to be. Dillinger Escape Plan, obviously on here, and as I'd mentioned before, Nevermore. You got a
big fans.
What's that?
Big fans.
Big fan.
Big Nevermore fans.
Big Nevermore fans. You also get some weird second stage bands too. Boba Flex, which I remember the name. I remember seeing ads in the back of like Decibel and Revolver magazine. Dry Kill Logic, Symphony X, another weird shreddy band that also Dillinger connection there, helped record Ben on Calculating Infinity. And Life of Agony is on this tour. Like this is, what was that butt rock record they put out in like '05? This is that era when they had like a video on like MTV and shit. Yeah. But Gigantour, weird tour, like very strange tour, especially for Dillinger to play, right? I'm sure someone mentioned to Dave Mustaine, hey, this band's got a lot of hype right now. They're doing a lot of touring. You should get them. It helped build your crowd up a little bit. And you even were kind enough to put some notation into the notes here of like people's comments on Reddit about seeing Dillinger for the first time with like their dad and having like the best time.
Yeah, I think the kid says, "Hey, I hadn't heard Dillinger Escape Plan prior to this concert, but I got a kick out of the lead singer ending their set by jumping off stage in the water." And then somebody responded with, "That was my first DT show. My dad still talks about that dude jumping into the water 16 years later."
I mean, memorable shit, right? Like,
Yeah, was so weird to hang out with your dad and be like, oh, your dad's there. I mean, the difference between if you really think about it, Dream Theater and Dillinger is just beats per minute. And
sure.
like it's yeah.
Yeah.
So like to me, I could see a dad being like, oh, yeah, I don't like it, but they're good at what they're doing.
Yeah. Right. Right. Oh,
I think, yeah. Oh, everyone's having a good time.
everybody's having a great time. Look, he got hot. He jumped in the water.
Yeah.
But they have the drop off of the tour due to an arm injury that Ben sustained. Swindle mentioned in our group chat that he dropped off, and then they went on like Steven's Untitled Rock Show on Fuse not terribly long after this and did a performance. So it's like, what happened? Is he playing through the pain there? Was the tour too much? It's like, fuck, who fucking knows with these guys?
It could have been that the studio was closer to his house. And he's like, well, it'd be dumb not to go down. It's 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's a 10-minute drive, or it's just like a train ride or something.
Yeah.
But later that year, the band then went on to do more of a club tour with Unearth, A Life Once Lost, and Zao again. And in 2006, there was a DVD released, the Miss Machine DVD. There was also an EP released in 2006, the Plagiarism EP, which is a covers EP that runs the gambit of Massive Attack covers, Soundgarden, and Justin Timberlake covers, which is the band's done covers all throughout its career, but those are probably some of the weirder ones that they've done.
Yeah.
But they also, during this period of time, are touring with like Dysrhythmia, Coheed and Cambria, and AFI. Like they're doing a bunch of wild shit. But the album proves to be pretty big fucking success. It's their biggest album of their career. Decibel Magazine, I think 2004 is the first published year of Decibel Magazine. I've essentially got most of the catalog. I've been subscribed since like 07. But they voted their album of the year, debuts at 106 on the Billboard charts when this is still a really big deal for a band like this. I mentioned Brian ends up leaving the band due to all the injuries that he's had. In 2007, they ultimately replaced Brian with a gentleman by the name of Jeff Tuttle. Previously, the band Heads Will Roll. Also, in 2007, the band loses Chris Penny to tourmates Coheed and Cambria. I believe Chris was ultimately just going to fill in for some shows to help them out, and he ended up just leaving the band. And there's some conflicting kind of communication about how he left the band versus how he didn't. But it seems like Greg and Chris kind of kept in touch and were always really friendly. Chris is actually playing in one of Greg's current bands, the Black Queen. So he's still out there doing shit. But another note about Chris joining Coheed and Cambria is he was set to play on their 2007 album, No World for Tomorrow, ultimately couldn't due to contractual issues. And Taylor Hawkins ends up recording the drums on that record.
Taylor Hawkins played on a Coheed record?
He sure did. Played on that record, which is right. Pretty nuts, but I think they were on the same record label at the time, or maybe they're just really friendly.
How sick does the first drummer from Coheed have to feel if he's like, oh, who had to replace me? Oh, guy from Dillinger. And then after that, Taylor Hawkins, you might have heard of him.
Yeah.
And that's insane. Like let me talk about like that later on, but like, yeah, this Chris Penny stepping into Coheed of just kind of like, I mean, I guess, man, it doesn't really seem to be like the same style. It seemed a lot more straightforward. I won't say four on the floor, but like not as like mathematical. And I mean, maybe seeing these other guys in the band getting hurt just playing those songs, maybe he was like, yo,
I gotta check out.
I'm next. It's me. I'm the only guy left.
It's when it comes to progressive music, they're a little bit more rock and roll than I would say. It definitely in comparison to Dillinger Escape Plan by every aspect. There's more rock and roll going on with Coheed and Cambria. But the band released Miss Machine happens. It's done. As I mentioned, they knew they would upset fans with all of this. Looking back on the album, there's some conflicting opinions on how they feel about the record. I think the big thing was that it felt less cohesive due to the recording in blocks, like there was no continuity with it. And Greg even said that he can't even really listen to the record because it sounds a little too digital to him, and that he isn't a fan of some of the vocals, which I get it. Your first record, hindsight is 2020. You've become a better vocalist at this point in their career. But what we get is a great record that kind of showcases a band coming more into their own after a lot of hurdles. A band that is able to roll with the punches and still do all the crazy shit that they did by taking their bodies and just throwing it, literally throwing them in front of a moving car. and a band that still continued to push boundaries. And you get more of this sound from this record on what comes next, which is the 2007 album Ironworks, and a much shorter time frame in between album releases. And I can't wait to talk about that episode when we get to it.
I liked it a lot when it came out. And if for whatever reason this had only been the only album they ever recorded with Greg, or the last Dillinger album, I would be happy and look back and go like, hey, they made an awesome record. Like, they went out with a great record. It's just, it's one of those where it's a transition record to me. I think it would have been, if I had to choose, I think there's an incredible EP in this album, is how I feel about it. But I could understand with the time that it had taken between the first LP and this one coming out, there was probably, like you said, some label stuff of like, we need this from you guys. And so I think, like you said, the pressure maybe have made this record a little bit more overplanned, if that kind of makes any sense. Like, I just feel a lot of the stuff on this album is like, it's intentional in a way where it doesn't feel spur of the moment. It's not happy accidents to me when I listen to this record. It's very like, nope, here it is, and we're done with it. And that's all this was going to be, because this is what we are now. It's genuine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's genuine, but I do think that having someone, like you said, step in eventually and kind of go like, hey guys, you guys got to put this record out. I'm happy that happened. I wish it had happened sooner.
I agree. I like the way that you said it's a transition record, because the band is, till the end of this band, the band was the Dillinger Escape Plan. There were no steps to go, we're gonna purely make a pop record. We're gonna make a trip hop album. We're gonna make a tribute to Mr. Bungle. We're gonna go completely noise. Like, all of those elements are in the band. The band continues to put out 4 more records after this one, and to varying degrees of what you get from it. I look at an album like Option Paralysis from 2010, and you've got Farewell Mona Lisa on there, which is like a pretty blistering track.
That's a front to back Dillinger. If I put that one on, I'm listening to the whole thing. I absolutely love that record.
I think the band has a legacy, and I think that legacy is one of the most intense and abrasive sounding, while also being fully embracing the fact that they're experimental. And I think every musician on here treats their instrument as a chisel. It's not I play an instrument. It's purely what can we do to create art? And I think that's a beautiful thing about music too. Just as much as I like, give me Creeping Death. I love listening to an album like Miss Machine or Ironworks and hearing all the weird, chaotic shit that's going on in it and going, why?
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
They're a band where when I see, you mentioned Greg's influences, the Bad Brains, the Mike Patton, like that kind of stuff. Like, oh, that makes sense. But when I hear like what the instruments are doing, I'm like, you're what people reference for this. Like, you're this. What is before this that made you want to do this?
A band you can't pigeonhole. A band you can't put into one. They're the square peg in the round hole. They always are. And it is cool to see that they're finishing up this calculating infinity cycle. I would love to see a one-off show or anything with the Greg lineup again. It would be really cool to hear those songs again. Don't know if that's going to happen. It could. You never know. Never say never in the music world, apparently.
I think they've since, I've read things where Greg has been like, we're not fun. Like, or what's the word? We're not like polite with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you've spent that much time with somebody in very small confines and had every argument imaginable, and living different styles of life at different areas, and just dealing with all the bullshit that you dealt with. I'm sure you needed a lot of time apart. That's trauma bonding, right? But Dillinger Escape Plan, Miss Machine, fantastic album. So now's that time of the episode when we talk about what we've been listening to and what we would suggest anybody that's listening now to listen to. Pat, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I have a album here. You mentioned Chris from Dillinger Escape Plan. I believe he played on 3 tracks on this album. The album's called Wolves. It's by a band called Idiot Pilot. If you like Miss Machine, And you also like Radiohead. I know they're a pretty polarizing band for a lot of people. I would check out Idiot Pilot, the album Wolves. It's more of a straightforward rock record with some electronic parts in it. There's some really cool stuff that Chris does on some of the heavier tracks. They're a band that mixes electronics with live instruments. I saw them live. It's just a drum machine and a guy being sassy with the guitar. They were awesome. But yeah, if you like Miss Machine, I think you'll get something out of the album Wolves by the band Idiot Pilot. It's a kind of an older rec. As far as new stuff goes, a band called Long Goodbye just put out an EP called A Whispered Promise of Failure. And if you can't tell by everything I just said, yes, they sound like that. They sound like a early 2000s metalcore band, leaning more into the metal part. So if you're into bands like As Hope Dies, you'll probably get a kick out of Long Goodbye. The EP is called I Just Had It. They made a video for the song. It's called My Dearly Departed off of A Whispered Promise of Failure.
I got two as well. New Godflesh single off the upcoming album Decay. The track is called Living Ending. Shit rules. It's Godflesh. It's dirgy. It's bleak. It's depressive. It's awesome. You know, everybody knows that Godflesh is ending due to some injuries that Justin has built up throughout the years, but the album was recorded prior to the injuries taking place or prior to the surgeries for the injuries. This shit's heavy. You heard us ramble on about industrial and instrumental music, about it having balls or not. Like, this thing's got satchels of them. Like, this thing's fucking awesome. I can't wait for this record. And as we talked about a bit of, as Pat described it, a transition record, I recently had been going through the Metallica catalog again and hearing the difference between Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. Ride the Lightning is a absolute transition record for this band, and hearing the growth from Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning is insane. Ride the Lightning is, out of the first four, it's probably my least played, just because there's so much there. But Ride the Lightning has killer songs. Does it have one or two filler tracks? Absolutely. But even those filler tracks are really fucking great. I mean, I mentioned Creeping Death earlier, but like, killer fucking record from, obviously, like, I think the most creative and pure era of this band.
Not a Kill 'Em All guy? I'm not. I say that because I'm not a Kill 'Em All guy.
Oh, I like Kill 'Em All. I absolutely love that record.
Okay.
But something about the growth from that's a little bit more punk in sense, whereas Ride the Lightning became like, oh, here we are. We're here. You've got the layering. You've got all of this stuff going on. Cliff's fully kind of pushed his songwriting influence on everybody, and I think you hear it more there. I also think you get to hear Kirk Hammett become who he was at this point, as opposed to playing Mustaine's solos on the first record.
I was really, when you said Metallica transition record, I was like, this motherfucker about to rep Load? Is he about to be like, yo, y'all like Load?
I am a Load apologist. I think it's better than the Black Album.
Clip it.
Leave it in. It is better than the Black
clip
Album.
that part. Clip you saying, I'm a Load apologist.
Don't want to reload it, but I'm a Load apologist.
Oh, all right. Well,
you're welcome. Anyway, thank you guys. You know where to find us. Austin's going to slice my throat for saying that, but Pat, thank you again for joining. Appreciate it, as always. Looking forward to the next one. We will definitely be doing a follow-up on this episode. So again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And until next time, see ya.